Hello, everyone. This is Rebecca Green for the Whiny Palooza podcast, and I am super excited today because I get to talk to the fabulous Daniela Bumann. Well, I didn't do that right, did I? Bumann?
You did it perfect. You've been practicing, Rebecca. I think that's what happened.
I do when I'm not sure. Okay, anyways, thank you so much for being here with us and for doing this with me today.
You are so welcome. It's a pleasure to be here and share with you.
Sometimes when I get to meet people over Zoom, it's like I love their energy and everything about them right away. And I think we had the same feelings about each other as soon as we met.
We sure did. It was a positive chemistry. Yes,
For
absolutely.
sure. This is going to be an awesome conversation. And I do want to tell you a little bit about Daniela because she is very impressive. And I want to tell you a little bit about her resume. She is a Swiss native based in California, is a corporate consultant, international teacher, transformational speaker, life coach, and evolutionary consciousness guide. Her insights and teachings open new pathways for change, helping individuals tap into their spiritual potential and fostering greater unity. And let me tell you, when I heard about Daniela, I could not wait to talk to her. This is so impressive. I'm so impressed with you. We've already started talking, and I told her I'm not going to start asking you my questions until I press record. So let's start with your two awesome books that we were just talking about, High Performance Without Pain and Gliding You Home. So tell us what inspired the books and how dolphin consciousness influenced it.
Oh, this is exciting, very exciting. So, it's all in the name of evolution, basically. So when I first started to write this book, High Performance Without Pain, a 7-step blueprint to reclaim your vibrant life and get even more done, I really had no idea to what extent the dolphin consciousness was behind that. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. It's an evolution which at the time I was not aware of. Of course, there has to be an opening, Rebecca, in order for the higher realms to drop in. And to not just drop in occasionally, but to stick around for a bit in order to translate. Or the dolphins are showing me like the water, if you throw something in it, you have to be willing to let it sink down, to let it sink
Yeah.
down in order for the energy to spiral up and to be picked up. So the reason why the High Performance Without Pain book happened was because I had grown up in Switzerland. I was born and raised in Switzerland to entrepreneurial parents, a mother that was quite structured and disciplined, thank God, and a father that was very creative, philosophical, and loved being an entrepreneur. Was great with people and sales and whatnot. And so I saw high performance firsthand. I saw the extreme work ethics that my parents had. As much as they enjoyed it, it can take a toll. I
Yeah.
mean, you
Yeah.
are of course, at the time, what did I know? My mom was a high performer, or even dad, or let's just say high achiever.
Mm. Yeah.
Uh, but to make a long story short, so I really observed this both ways. Dad that brought in much more of a calm, present, collected energy to it. Would
Yeah.
say, that would say, Daniela, God sometimes shows me exactly where to go. And as long as I follow that, it's pretty easy. He had this ease about.
Wow. That's amazing.
Now, Rebecca, I didn't know that at the beginning of my life, not until
Right.
later on into my 30s and on. And mom was definitely also very important because she definitely put the structure on the vehicle, because without a structure in the system, the things don't really go that well. But she suffered also a lot from issues of stress and pressure and overwhelm.
Mm.
And oftentimes high performers go through that, right?
Yes. Yes.
Well, Rebecca, when I realized at a fairly early age, I thought to myself, why are people walking around like they're automated? Like, they're somewhat a bit robotic. And it's like, can't you
Mm,
see what I'm seeing? There's so much vibrance, the name of my business, Vibrant Living, to life, right? Not that everything is always crystal and sweet and pretty, but to me, it was just, it's a pretty incredible place to be alive in, or on
yes.
planet Earth.
Yes.
And so I decided I was going to embark upon a little journey to the United States, California. And when I did, make a long story short, I ended up staying here for 6 months and then going back, finishing school, and then to come back basically. And here I stayed. When my parents were going through their rich aging process, and both of my parents are chiming in from above at this point, it's just this next, it's just the next level. It's not just upstairs, let's just say. They're chiming in from upstairs. And but before that happened, I was very active in their caregiving process. It was a very serious scenario. Mom had Parkinson's.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a tough one. And I really wanted to make sure that they stayed at home. So orchestrating caregivers and whatnot, and so I traveled back and forth a lot, sharing the responsibility with my brother and my sisters, that chimed in every once in a while. And but with that, because I was in Switzerland so often, I ended up developing some seminars over there as well. So I became multicultural, really going back and forth, doing team building, communication, mindfulness
it's
seminars,
wonderful.
back and forth and back, and hitting the road running, 9 hours jet lag,
Oh boy.
knowing what I would expect when I would get there. Like one time when I realized a caregiver was having alcohol in the refrigerator, and
Oh no.
there was always, I never really knew what to expect. But because the intensity of that journey, I ended up really burning the candle at both ends.
Mm,
And that's when the hero really had to realize that the high achiever or high performer, has limits after all.
be nice if we learned that, right?
And as much, when you have that kind of energy or mindset that things, I can do anything, I set my mind to. Sometimes you need to be clonked a little harder to realize, you do have limits. Now, with that said, if it would have not been for the habits that are in this book, the
Yeah.
7 habits, there is no way, Rebecca, that I would have been able to even have done what I did, because the habits are from number one, presence.
Mm,
As habit one, reduce anxiety, pain, and chaos. And of course, presence is something that I had also observed growing up with my dad, particularly going into the forest, where he would ask us to, shh, children, quiet, listen to the leaves.
I love that.
So you see, so that was in some ways instilled. So the 7 habits in the book, and that's where I ended up then realizing, after many years of coaching, of having coached others and my own personal journey, that these 7 habits were really making a huge difference in people's
Mm,
lives once I started coaching them.
that makes sense to me. Now, do you want to mention some of them or do you want to keep it a mystery so that people go get your book?
Well, I'll mention a few of them.
Yes, yes.
So, because the book is very rich. It's not a extremely thick book, but it is, being a coach and integrator in many ways. I'm always interested in not what you know, but what are you applying. So the
Mm,
book is written with graphs, and it's somewhat of a workbook, really, even though I do have a workbook also. But like the first habit is presence, reduce anxiety, pain, and chaos. And then, for example, habit 5 is equanimity and communication, applying
mm,
leadership and productivity. And it very much goes into mindful listening, mindful communicating, and then it goes in.
yes.
So it's very much a way of stepping away from the force state
Go,
into flow state.
oh, okay. Okay. So tell us the difference between the two states.
Well, how do you feel, Rebecca, when you're in a state of trying to push and shove and force something that you think you need to do through? How does that make you feel?
Forced. Like
Forced.
I'm forcing it. I'm trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're trying to make it happen. What is it that you're not doing when you're in a force state?
Hmm.
What are you
I-
ignoring?
I'm probably not being very mindful. Right?
Yes. So you're not listening to your intuition. You are not present. You are jumping into future projections or getting lost in past history or disbeliefs that it can even happen, right? So
Yes.
you are stuck between the two states, but there's no, like, the future, the past, but there's no one here. There's no one in the present.
So,
So
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
so, everything is happening in the present moment, but we
Hmm.
spend very little time there.
I know. And this podcast is amazing for me because there was stuff going on before it. There's stuff going on after it. But I find that my podcast brings me to the present moment, and I'm only here with you right now.
Yes.
Yes.
And so that brings us into the pure state of presence, which is an unencumbered state. It is not attached to any future or past. It is unencumbered, pure, unadulterated in the now, here moment versus being on the run to nowhere.
So, can you tell us what the flow state looks like so that we know we're doing it more correctly?
Right. So the flow state happens really. One of the key components of the flow state, as the dolphins keep reminding me, is the human likes to do this.
Yes.
The human likes to hold on tight and control.
Yes.
We're all guilty of that.
Yes,
Right?
we are
Right.
guilty. I'm
So,
guilty.
so there is a difference. We are not saying when you are moving into a flow state, and your creative juices are turned on and you're plugged in, that you are flying by the seat of your pants. That is not what we're saying, right?
Yeah, yeah.
However, first of all, it's really about getting comfortable with, when you're stepping more into a flow state, that you are paying attention to that inner compass, that inner drummer that plays a song that turns you on. It turns on your light. Your
Oh, I
light
love that.
wisdom, light is consciousness, light is evolution, right? Where your orientation and your intention, it becomes much stronger, your inclination to follow that light versus the old pre-programmed way of plugging away over here, right? So when you realize that, first of all, moving into this greater state of ease allows you to feel more creative, more at ease. It allows you to trust yourself at a greater level. But of course, in the knowing that the ego self, as you're practicing this, the ego self is going to say, hello, do you really think you can do it this way? Like, hello, I don't think so. I mean, this is not going to work. You see, it is the
Yes.
conflict.
I totally understand. It makes so much sense. And I feel really bad because I took us off topic because I want you to tell them about your second book, Gliding You Home. Will you tell us about that one?
Of course. So, hence, from the first book, shortly after the book was gone, I had, another step, as we were talking about earlier, of evolution. It's all in the evolutionary process, in the growth process. So I was experiencing quite a bit of challenges physically, and I was also experiencing quite a bit of pain, and it really impacted me. And so, as I was going through this ascension state or growth spur, I guess I could say, internal growth spur, because I believe I'm grown up, at least height wise.
Right.
um, the dolphins made themselves known very clearly in a very forward fashion. And so that is really where Gliding You Home, a dolphin stream of a new earth, came about. And it's
Such
really,
a beautiful title. Beautiful.
thank you. I was told that wasn't the best title for promotional purposes. However, that's what I was told.
Yes. Yes. We got to go with our instincts.
And so, I mean, I knew that because being an entrepreneur, I'm also into marketing and all of that, but I knew
Right.
the home was, again, following that flow state. It was the one title that the Dolphins really resonated with, and it is their book after all. And the subtitle is Unlocking Your Spiritual Potential, a practical guide to evolving your consciousness for personal growth and fulfillment. And in this book, the big difference between the first book of High Performance Without Pain to Gliding You Home really is that Gliding You Home is all about the human evolution, where we've been, what's no longer working. You know what happened with COVID-19
Mm,
shook everything up, right? And also how things are being exposed. It's not a political book. It is very concerned with the evolution of humanity. And so it does help the human understand why he or she is going through these phases where things suddenly no longer make sense.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
the physical, mental, or emotional symptoms that they may go through when you go through this dissolution state.
Hmm. So fascinating. It's also fascinating. And I'm super fascinated by you have to talk to us about dolphins. How are you communicating with dolphins? I need to know this.
Well, the dolphin consciousness, I think what ended up happening was because I softened many resistances when I had this period of just intense, debilitating symptoms, which was oftentimes was nerve pain.
Mm,
When I had it in short increments, I could handle it, but this had held on too long for my ability to regulate. And I'm a pretty decent regulator of my own energy. And so what happened was I ended up just giving over, and I just went into this state of complete surrender.
Mm.
Found myself slipping to the other side.
Oh boy.
And and when I did, well, guess who I was met with in the flesh? The
Hmm.
dolphin consciousness picked me up. And actually, the first part of the book, there's a poem that talks about that exact process that I actually wrote down after it happened. Um, it was absolutely an amazing experience in the way I always thought it would be.
Wow.
Within the
Wow.
consciousness, Rebecca, the unity consciousness, the feeling of the unity, the just the entire experience of it. Now, coming back was a bit brutal because I had to reintegrate everything that I had experienced, and it took about a year. And there was also the concern that I had when I would close my eyes. I was so close to the other side that I would kind of pop over real quick. And so that contrast was very brutal.
Oh my goodness. So, how did you get to a better place with your pain and your consciousness? Like, how did you shift?
So the shift came about as I started to allow the dissolution process of what I thought I had known.
Mm, that's huge. I mean, that's not easy.
Hence the book as a guide.
Well, thank you for writing the book for us, both of them.
So, you know, so the first part of the book is into a dolphin stream slipping to the other side. So that's what I was just talked about. And then it's kind of like here they go, and that's where they explain. And then it goes into the evolution of humanity. And then it goes into entering the stream. So that's what I had to do, is enter that stream. And then one of the other parts was healing the disconnection, and off it goes. Patterns no more. All
Mm,
of these components I had to visit and integrate, right? To be able to hold the gap between that other side, like really bringing heaven to earth
mm,
and still make it functional over here, because as much as I'm a flower of I'm also an entrepreneur and a quite spiritually pragmatic person. I'm
mm.
very practical. I like to get stuff done and check things
Sure.
off my list.
Yes. Yes, I relate to that.
Relate to that. So being left brained and right brained, right? I think so. What ended up happening was to really enhance and dive deeper into this flow state is literally I had to just settle within my own self and get ready to start writing the book. And then as I was talking to my editor, she I ended up then sitting for a little while and thinking, well, let me start writing the first part. And so they ended up giving me the entire outline. They gave me the whole outline, every single chapter, the outline they get. And so I sent it to my editor, and she was laughing because she was my trusty editor from my first book. So we know each other very well. And so she's like, well, it looks like you got the outline, Daniela. Ha ha ha.
Aha, yeah, that doesn't work.
So no, meaning they already gave you the entire outline. That didn't change much.
Mm.
So the outline was already given. And then literally I had to just, you know, allow the information to come through and put it on paper.
Well, I think that you have talked about a couple of times that we have these patterns that don't work for us, and we
Yes.
want to shift to new patterns that work better for us. So, can you give them some advice on how do we start to let go of old patterns and move to something that's going to work better for us?
Yes. So, would you mind if I read just a little part of the book of Habits No
Absolutely.
More?
Absolutely.
Just for the listener or the watcher to get a little bit of an idea of how the book is actually written. So, Patterns No More. All is well and as it should be. Nothing is stagnant and has a rhythm and a flow. And what has been suppressed before is bubbling up now through the surface and through your body to be released and pushed out forevermore. You will now let go, not just your own past patterns, but familial and ancestral orchestrations that have moved through your ancestral lines of evolution. Not unlike the ley lines of the earth, which can and are apt to change through this current immersive transformation to formulate or move toward a new grid. As we've mentioned before, nothing is ever stagnant, even though, due to your own evolution and its speed or lack thereof, it may appear that way. Just like within the oceans in which we play and live through joyful perceptions, no wave is ever the same, yet it may appear to the naked eye to be so.
Wow, that's beautifully said. That was really helpful. I think that one of the things that resonates with me most of what you said is that I think sometimes we're resisting what is happening, what is occurring. And we have to remember that everything is as it should, everything is happening as it should be. And my husband likes to say everything is a gift for us.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
So it's the willingness to recognize that really in truth everything happens for us and not against us, in its most basic ways.
Yes.
One of the challenges at the beginning is to recognize that perhaps the plan of our life, of our work life that we've fallen in love with, is just a plan. It
Mm.
is not perhaps what has set into alignment, right? And so the first book really serves with these habits from presence, and for example, habit 2, judgment awareness, to
Ooh,
be to recognize. Habit 3 is acceptance and belonging. Well, what does that mean? So it's really a preset, a blueprint in many ways. It doesn't matter if you're an executive or if you're a student at 16 years old. Within the first book, it's really about recognizing as you honor these 7 character qualities, right? It will then allow you to much easier step into the evolution of this flow state, in
mm.
which they do explain it at different levels. And they use a lot of examples of what holistic evolution um, looks like.
Well, and you are talking in such an evolved, flowy state that I adore. And I know people listening are probably wanting to get there. And one of the things that I think I'm noticing is that people are resisting their feelings, resisting their emotions, not embracing how they're feeling. So, can you help them embrace their feelings and stop
Yes.
resisting?
Yes. Now, emotions is, and you've probably heard this before, Rebecca, E dash motions, right? It is just it's something that moves. It's something that
Mm,
moves through. But again, the human in the old paradigm of force and control. Again, a
Yeah.
degree of control is very beautiful. It's good. We have to have a certain direction. I call it taking inspired intentional action,
Mm.
which is different. That stems from a flow state because it's inspired, it's intentional. It's like you can't wait to get it done, to get it over with. For example, I'll share example with you. Yesterday I had a very early day with a meeting starting at 7:15 a.m. in a different city, whatnot. When I came back to my home office, I needed to do something, and I just didn't have it, because it was something that required much more of a kind of a push through energy. However, I ended up creating the newsletter, and the newsletter flowed. It was, yes, I love it. It was creative,
Yes.
inspiring. It was, do you see that?
Yes.
So
Yes.
so tapping into that flow state and working with this emotion, realizing, Daniela, you're really tired. You've just worked with some clients, you've gone to two meetings, you know, I still wanted to do some work. So I gauged it, right? And then I
Mm.
was so happy, and I was laughing at myself. I'm like, look, now you just worked on this for 2.5 hours, and the other, you would have been exhausted after half an hour because
Isn't that interesting? That is really interesting. So the stuff that is giving us energy, raising our vibrations, making us excited, getting in touch with that.
yes. So
Yes.
exactly, Rebecca. So back to emotions. So there's an entire chapter in here called Emotions as Messengers,
Mm,
right?
oh, I love
Yes.
that.
So, and look at this.
Oh,
I
she's
hired a
showing us a.
graphic I hired a graphic designer.
So if you're watching this, you see the adorable dolphin. If you are listening, you can't see the dolphin that she's showing me.
So awakening and recognizing the real feeling you. Let's say this again. Awakening and recognizing the real feeling you.
Hmm.
What does that mean? You know, for everyone, if you reflect on that, if you think about what the real feeling me, what does that mean? Because it goes back into the authentic state of being,
Hmm.
not the programmed state of being, right? It goes back into how am I really feeling? So again, going back to a practical example, what I ended up doing then throughout after this experience of going to the other side and coming back and integrating, I ended up giving myself permission to do things quite differently. Now, again, like I said, I'm left and right brained, right? You know how much the left brained part of me was like, "You kidding me? You need to get this done." Blah, blah, blah.
Right. I totally understand what you're explaining. I have lived it many times.
I've always been spontaneous nonetheless, so that was not an issue, but I was starting to trust a different wave, a
Hmm.
different it's like the surfer. So if the listener or the watcher is imagining you're starting to step onto a different surf on your own personal surfboard and you're noticing the shivers, the waves, just it's a different rhythm. But the more you practice to trust your instinctual feeling, your authentic feeling, not the one that you think you ought to be doing. This is away from people pleasing. This is about living much more of your authentic self and living your work and life from the seat of your soul.
I mean, it sounds so beautiful and so wonderful. And I guess the question that I have is, as you're helping people on this journey to a more authentic self, a more spiritually evolved self, what challenges are you seeing for them as they try to get there?
Well, there's a few, and they're different with each person, but then again, all the same. It is
Yes.
the fight of the old self to hang on. They hang on with their life
Oh,
to what it knows.
yeah.
It knows. And yet, however, in my work, oftentimes, whether I'm speaking or I'm doing one-on-one I have an office in downtown Redlands, but I also work on Zoom or Google Meet. My work is very oftentimes I bring in a lot of experiential elements. And when the client, the person on the other side is able to feel, oh, wow, okay. See, then they get that flicker of, oh, I get it. Now they may not get it, but they feel the lightness, they feel that breeze, they feel this is much easier. I'm not there yet over here, there's the hanging
Yes.
anchor,
Yeah.
but they're starting to feel how much easier life would be from that place. So they're hanging on to the old self and the old paradigm, right? And everything that has to do with the old paradigm, the old way of thinking, the old way of perceiving, the old way of, right? Now, this is not something that happens, might can, but not necessarily, it often doesn't unless somebody is really ready for that. It's a progressive state.
Mm.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
no, there's really nothing to worry about.
I mean, it sounds like we need to have time. We need to accept that it takes time and patience
Yes, it does.
and not instant results.
Yes. So
Yes.
habit 7 in the first book is about patience and transformation of the ego.
Hmm. I love that.
And so that's why, as of late, the dolphins kept on reminding me, you need to talk about the first book when you talk about our book, because the first book really is about, it's not about the book, it's about the habits and the character traits, or superpowers that will then help you. Like oftentimes with clients, we really work quite diligent on understanding what does presence mean in the day to day to day. I don't care if you're somebody that sweeps the grounds, or it really is very irrelevant. For all I know, that person could have a much more presence than the rest of us. It's
Hmm.
about really bringing it down to earth so you can incorporate it, so you can bring presence as the foundation to everything that you're doing. Once that presence foundation is increased, then you're able to go on to these next levels with much greater ease.
Makes so much sense. So, to everyone listening who wants to strive for personal transformation, spirit and spiritual growth, can you tell them where they could get some success starting today?
You're referring to my website or?
No, we're going to do that next. If
Oh, okay.
if someone if someone wants to start today, they want to start to
Oh,
achieve.
oh, I see. They're in
Yes.
their day-to-day. Yes. So, yes, so that's a great question. So, what you can do is you can literally take a piece of paper, and on the left-hand side, you can write down, what is no longer working in your life.
Mm, I love that. Yeah.
And then on the right side, you can write, what's the alternative? And I encourage you to find at least 6 criterias. Now, that could be from your health and diet to your communication skills to your, for example, if somebody is an avid people pleaser, they've made a profession out of it, being now. Um, it's like you can put that on. What's the alternative?
Mm.
How can you activate the opposite?
Mm. That is such good advice. I love that we're gonna give them that advice to start with. Well, I've asked you so many questions. So before I tell them where to find you, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to share?
Well, let's see.
I asked you so many things.
The what I'd like to share is really a good start is to start with that exercise and starting to feel into the fact of what's flowing in your life and
Mm.
what's rigid.
Yeah.
And again, like we said before, creating a flow state does not mean you're flying by the seat of your pants. It just means you're tuned into your creative spark, into your creative self. So so that's on one level. As a support, the first book, The Seven Habits, are following a gentleman called William and a top level executive I was coaching. And that's also culmination of all my clients. I'm actually taking him through the seven habits.
Oh, this sounds good.
So it's very practical, like I said. And so that's very helpful. And then in the second book, when you feel you are ready to go to that next level, then the second book really talks about, no concepts, but intention, emotions as messengers, the voice of joy flow. What does that mean? Right?
Mm.
The book in itself is a very much a download energetically as you are reading it, because the way it's written, it just kind of flows like the dolphin consciousness flows.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. You're making me want to go see some dolphins.
Well, that's
So tell everybody where they can find you and your awesome books.
great. So you can find me on social media under Vibrant Living or Vibrant Living International. I have two websites. My regular website is vibrantlivingnow.org. That's vibrantlivingnow.org, not .com. And then
Mm.
my speaking website is Daniela, that's TANIE, one L and an A, Bumann, BUMANN.com. And that's my speaking website. You can get all of the materials on the book. I am available, my books are available on Audible. They are available on Amazon. I actually narrated this particular book.
Oh, awesome.
Since were very insistent I would do. And it carries a whole nother energy with it.
Yeah.
First book is also an audio book as well, not narrated by me. And then, as part of the support materials, once I started to create the first book, I'm like, well, my clients need cards.
Mm.
So I created the Compassionate Liberation for the High Performer Daily Alignment cards
Beautiful.
based on the seven habits in the book. And then I thought, well, my clients need a workbook to get a little deeper into the book.
Very smart.
Need a planner, so that is also available. So it's an entire organizational, again, there's the organizer. There's an
You're
entire organizational system. However, like I said, all of that is just going to help to get deeper into this, that once you embark upon this book, and I'm sure some folks are ready to dive into this book right now.
hmm So if someone wanted you to coach them, are you doing coaching in any state? anywhere people are, like over Zoom or
Yes.
over? Yes. Okay. Wonderful.
I have an
Well,
office in Redlands downtown, where I see clients in person, and then the rest I do on Zoom or Google Meet.
well, I can't thank you enough for spending time with us today, teaching us about what you do and your books and all of this amazing knowledge that you have.
It was absolutely my pleasure, and I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with your sweet energy, Rebecca.
Oh, so sweet. Well, thank you so much. And this is Rebecca Green reminding everyone to spend every day laughing, learning, and loving.
Thank you for tuning in to the Whiny Palooza podcast. If you like what you heard, please be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. While you are there, leave a review. I love to hear your feedback. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.